What's good in the hood, YouTube? This is Crazy Samurai 71 here, bringing us another video. Sam bringing us a video on Kamen Rider Geo, and today I'll be catching up on Kamen Rider Geo from episode 18 to 21. So that's 4 episodes. Episode 22 just came out yesterday, so I'll probably be doing episode 22 very, very soon, and it's going to be a really cool one, so keep that in mind. But I'm going to do this review right now that's just covering those past 4 episodes prior to 22, so that I am pretty much caught up. So episode 18 was called Amazing Era Future 2022, and the episode overall was really good. It brought in Rentaro, which was the same person that was Kamen Rider Shinobi, but his future self ended up being the Shinobi form, I believe. And in this case, he was a coward and all that, and another rider, Shinobi, ended up wanting to show that he could be strong and defend people that he cared about. So there's that whole story there. Another Woes is in this, which is important. They start referring to them as Black Woes and White Woes. Black is standard, white is another Woes. The other thing is that another Woes, it looks to Gaze as his savior versus regular Woes, which looks to Sugo as his savior. So that's something to note. And obviously he wants him to become Gaze Revive, which is important, but we'll get to that later. Anyway, he tries to help him. They're after the Ride Watches, and at the same time, another Woes is still working to some extent with the Time Jackers. Yet at the same time, he's kind of working against them because he can shift what will happen in the future. So that's something to note. Now, as far as things go in general, we end up seeing another Woes, and we end up seeing the Geo and Gaze trying to fight against another Shinobi. They eventually have it where Geo tries to convince Rentaro to not give in and to believe in his future self. And the thing is that what happens is that Schwartz keeps on inserting and removing the Shinobi Ride Watch into him, and eventually he's like, no, I'm going to believe in myself, and he begins to act differently, and this eventually leads to Woes using the another Shinobi. He ends up making like the real Ride Watch, because the thing is that they can't Gaze and Tsukuyomi at one point try to travel to the year 2022, but they can't, and they can't interact with that year because it's in the future, and it's not part of their normal timeline. It's part of Woes' timeline, where almost Geo didn't exist, so he's able to create his own timeline and shift all of the future and shift it to where he has this Ride Watch, which allows him to take the form of an Kamen Rider Woes featuring Shinobi. That's how they refer to it, featuring Shinobi. And he has a lot of the abilities that Kamen Rider Shinobi had when we got to see him in episode 17, which is pretty cool. And he uses his abilities and his attacks that he had to defeat another Shinobi, and then from there, Rentaro, realizes how he should behave, and things are good. Then episode 19, very different episode. This introduces Kamen Rider Quiz. Kamen Rider Quiz, really cool character. The actor is actually the same actor that played the Red Buster in Go Busters. He is this guy named Mondo, and the thing is that the idea is that for some reason him and he's Kamen Rider Quiz, but another Quiz still coexist with each other, rather than regular Quiz losing his memory of being a rider. And that's because futuring riders don't get affected, I guess, which is interesting, that they can actually coexist together. And so what we end up seeing is that apparently another Quiz is actually Mondo's father, and the thing is that his father was a failure as a scientist, and all of his research kept on failing, and he died an early death, and he left his family and all that, so he never really knew his son or anything that well, because he died so early. And Well, and the thing is that his mother is like ill in 2040 because that's the year that he's from. And the thing is, and by the way, the episode is called The Quiz Shock 2040. And the thing is that he wants to know for his mother whether or not he really loved her or not, because the thing is that she's gravely ill, and the big thing that's determining whether or not her time will move forward or not is whether or not he really did love her or not. And so he's determined to find that out, not for himself, but for her, because he cares about her that way, and he cares that, and he wants to make things right, and yet he still holds his father's watch, even though he dislikes him, but at the same time, it's obvious that it's not a complete dislike, it's just that he has this dislike for him because of what he's done, but at the same time, he wants to make it so that he knows that he did something right for his mother. So that's something to know. Now, what happens is that in this episode, we do see him fighting against the other quiz, and the story is revealed and all that, and eventually, in the first part, another Woes wants Gaze to take the ride watch from, Quiz's power, but the thing is that Gaze is not someone that wants to do that, because he knows that if he does that, he'll lose his memory, and then he won't be able to find out the information he wants to find out about his father for his mother. And the thing is that another Woes was the one that actually brought Quiz to the past in the first place. It's very complicated, but it's everywhere, but it makes sense. And the thing is that eventually, the battle continues on, and Gaze doesn't want to commit to actually defeating him, and at first he's completely against siding with Woes. Then in episode 20, which is Final Answer 2040, is the episode where basically Gaze is now starting to work against Quiz, even though at the same time he's not really wanting to work against him, but he's trying to convince another Woes that he's going to work with him rather than work with Geo. But the thing is that he has to do it in a convincing way, and another Woes kind of trusts Gaze but doesn't really, and then Gaze doesn't really trust another Woes either, so it's this kind of double distrust. And the thing is that in 2020, what happens is, in episode 20, is that they Quiz and Geo have to fight against Gaze, but eventually the fight continues on. Eventually another Quiz does get into a battle as well, and another Woes constantly changes what's supposed to happen to the characters in the show. Like, there's one point where Geo, I think this is in episode 19, Geo is sent to fight against another Quiz, even though he really shouldn't even fight against him because he doesn't have his power, I think. No, I'm thinking of another Shinobi. That was for episode 18. But the thing is that I know that in episode 20, Quiz is sent to fight against his father, and the thing is, they fight each other, and, Quiz wants to gain knowledge, like another Quiz wants to gain knowledge and all that, like that's what he keeps on doing, but it's just an interesting story. Eventually, another Quiz and Quiz finally get to talk to each other, which is like his father and son get to talk to each other, and Quiz gets to ask his father, like, does he asks his father the question about his mother, or his hypothetical mother, because at the time she wasn't alive. It's not that she wasn't alive, it's that he technically probably didn't exist or something, because this is supposed to be like in the past and all that, and there's a 21-year gap, so likely he's supposed to be like a teenager or like someone that's about to be an adult. And that's something that's something worth noting. But his father does agree that, like, yes, he would love his mother, and he actually manages to convince his father that he is his son because they have the same watch and it looks exactly the same. Except in the cases of Quiz is not working, and his father's is working because his father's is in the past while his was in the future, and time was stopped because of the fact that his father had passed away and all that. And basically the idea is that it wasn't meant to make it so that his father's future would be better, but it would be to help his mother so that she could move forward in time. It's an interesting story. Overall, episode 20 was pretty good. We do get to see as well, we do get to see Kamen Rider Woes featuring Quiz, which doesn't look as good as Quiz looks, like as a standard Quiz form, like as far as standard Quiz looks in general, but he still has some really cool abilities, and he can create these question marks and all these attacks, and his finisher for him looks pretty cool with all the question marks going around him and then defeating the monster. Or defeating another Quiz. I mean, all that was very cool. And then in episode 21, very different kind of story. It was called Mirror World 2019. This episode takes place in 2019. They have this story that Wool. They have a story regarding Wool, where Wool summons this character who is from the Mirror World, and the thing is that he ends up using the abilities of another rider, Ryoga, and Ryoga is from Kamen Rider Ryoki, so it's different. This time it's not the main rider that's being represented, it's actually a secondary rider from Kamen Rider Ryoki, so Ryoki doesn't get like direct representation in that way, but at the same time we don't really know if they'll actually have like a ride watch for him exactly, because they haven't shown that. Now again, I haven't seen episode 22, so maybe they do show something there, but it is something to note that we do see him use Kamen Rider Ryoga, and Geo does end up meeting this guy, and they have a conversation and everything, and eventually there is a point where like they're fighting against each other. Gaze is also getting involved, but Gaze could like potentially die because of the fact that like his abilities allow him to reflect certain attacks back, and the thing is that like Geo goes into the mirror world and he ends up meeting his mirror self, and the mirror self is not a good guy, he's actually a bad guy that wants to kill him. So that's basically what happens. Also in episode 20 we have it where Woes, like normal Woes, gives Sugo's uncle Geo's second ride watch, which is his ride watch that will allow him to take the form of Kamen Rider Geo 2, which is a more powerful version of Kamen Rider Geo that has increased strength and additional abilities and all that, but we'll get to that soon. And the thing is that he ends up trying to use it in episode 21, but it doesn't work. And I forgot to mention this as well. In episode 20, we do get to see the first use in the regular show itself of the Kamen Rider W armor for Kamen Rider Geo. Which the Kamen Rider W armor was shown in the movie that just came out, which was for the Heisei Generations movie, but that was only shown in the movie, and so one of the things that I was curious about was whether or not we were going to see any of those rider armor forms in the actual show, or were they going to be exclusive to the movie. And in this case, it's obvious that W is not exclusive. Now, as far as whether or not Deno and Kuga are going to be, we don't know yet. I would hope that Kuga would definitely be, and Deno, I'm hoping so as well, will be in the show. But W actually looks really awesome. I love the ride form for that, so it's great to see that it is featured in the show. Hopefully those other forms are also shown as well. And then and there still are regular riders that we haven't seen Geo meet or take the form of with ride armor yet. I mean, we're still missing a number of seasons. Again, we're getting Ryoga, but we're not getting Ryoki, which is interesting. And there's still other seasons like Blade that hasn't gotten represented, or Kiva, or a couple other seasons that would be interesting to see, like Hibiki. But in general, I do think that these are all pretty interesting, and I'm definitely looking forward to seeing what episode 22 will bring. Again, it just released, but I haven't seen it yet. In 22, I know we will have GO2, and also the preview for 23 I've already seen, which shows that Kamen Rider Kikai will be introduced, and that means Kamen Rider, another Kikai will also be introduced. And Kamen Rider Kikai is actually the same actor that played Zamigo in Lupin Ranger versus Power Ranger, so that's actually really, really awesome. I love the fact that we actually have this, that we have him in this, and that's the one that they're using. And he also played Kamen Rider. He also played Kaider in the remake movie that they did in 2014. So that's all really, really awesome, and I'm really happy about that. So in general, I'm looking forward to seeing 22, and I think that these episodes are good. Personally, I like Quiz a lot, and I think Shinobi was cool as well, but I'm very much so looking forward to seeing Kakai being introduced. And the thing is that it's interesting because it's Kakai and they're Kakaider, so I'm wondering if there's some reason, if the reason that they called him that was to kind of reference the fact that he played Kakaider. I don't know if anyone's really caught on to that idea, but I noticed it right away. I'm like, wait, Kakai, okay. And it was just sort of like a duh, like that makes sense. So in general, I'm looking forward to seeing what episode 22 brings. I'll be doing a review later this week, and I'll also be finally finishing off Lupin Ranger versus Paddle Ranger this week as well, because episode 51, which is the final episode, just released yesterday. I haven't seen it yet, but I'm looking forward to finally watching episode 50 and 51, so that way I am caught up and finished with Lupin Ranger versus Power Ranger, and then we'll be watching the mini-series leading up to Real Soldier. So otherwise, that's about it for me. I thought these episodes were pretty good overall. None of them were like the best things ever, and my opinion on Another Woe so far has been he's okay. You know, he's a decent character. He's not my favorite. I prefer regular Woes over him. And as far as Shinobi and Quiz, I like Quiz better because he had more story and was more interesting as a character. Plus, he's Red Buster, which is awesome. So, just in general, those things are great, and it's cool to see the story that they had for episode 21. I'm looking forward to seeing where things will go. So, otherwise, that's about it for me, guys. So, until then, guys, I'm Crazy Samurai 1, and goodbye, guys.